I never thought that the end would come in such a quiet, almost unnoticeable way. There were no alarms blaring, no dramatic gasps for air like in the movies, just silence. A soft, settling silence that seemed to wrap itself around the corners of the hospital room. I remember blinking slowly, my vision blurring at the edges as the fluorescent lights above me dimmed. Not literally, but in my perception, as if something within me was being gently unplugged from the physical world. My daughter was holding my hand. I remember her grip, tight, trembling, as if she was trying to anchor me to this life. And maybe I was trying to hold on too. Not for myself, but for her, for my family, for the people who would still need to go on living after I was gone. But the truth is, I was already leaving. There was this moment, I can't describe it any other way, where I just knew. My heart wasn't pounding. My lungs weren't gasping, but I felt a shift, like stepping off a moving train. I wasn't in pain anymore. The weight in my chest, the burning in my ribs, the tightness in my hands, all of it faded in a single breath. Or maybe it was after my last breath. It's hard to say. I heard the monitor flatline, a long, steady beep. My daughter cried out, but strangely, I felt no fear, no sadness, no panic. Instead, it was as if something within me whispered, "Let go." And I did. Suddenly I was floating, next to the hospital bed. I could see myself, my own body lying there, pale and still. My daughter collapsed over my chest, sobbing. Nurses rushed in. One of the doctors started pressing on my chest, trying to bring me back. But I just watched. I watched, but I didn't feel disconnected. If anything, I felt more me than I ever had before. Like I had been carrying a heavy coat my entire life, and someone had just taken it off my shoulders. I was light, aware, awake in a way I never knew was possible. There was no tunnel yet, no lights, just the quiet presence of the room and an overwhelming sense of peace. And then, it happened. A warm glow began to grow at the far end of the room, not from the lights. It was something else, something living. It pulsed, not with light, but with love, with recognition, as if it had always known me. I felt drawn to it, but not in a forceful way. It was more like remembering something I had forgotten for a very long time, like hearing the melody of a song your soul once danced to before it ever had a name. Time didn't exist, at least not in the way we know it. Every second felt both infinite and instant. I saw flashes of my life, not like a slideshow, but as living memories. The way my mother used to brush my hair before school, the first time I held my daughter in my arms, the tears, the laughter, the quiet in-between moments. They all shimmered around me like stars in some great sky of remembrance. And then I heard a voice, not with my ears, but deep within me. It said, "You are not alone." I didn't question it. I didn't need to. The words were not a statement. They were a truth that wrapped around me like a mother's embrace. I wasn't falling or rising. I was simply being, held in a peace that had no name, only feeling. And somewhere in that peace, something else was waiting. Not just comfort, not just reunion, but truth. Something I had never imagined. Something far bigger than me, or even this world. But first, I had to go deeper. If this content touches you in any way, please like, subscribe, and comment to help with engagement and help this video reach more people. Now let's continue the story. I hovered above the hospital bed watching a scene that felt both foreign and achingly familiar. There was my body, lifeless, pale, utterly still. My daughter's cries pierced the air, raw and broken. A nurse gently tried to pull her back as the doctor continued CPR, each compression jarring my chest like they were trying to breathe life into a shell I no longer needed. And yet, I felt nothing of the panic that should have come with watching my own death. Instead, I felt freedom. Pure, total freedom. The moment I left my body, it was as if the noise of the world, the constant hum of thought, pain, fear, even identity, just stopped. I didn't feel human anymore. Not in the limited way we usually understand it. I felt like energy, consciousness, something ancient and whole. I could still think, but not with words. I understood rather than processed. My awareness expanded. I could sense the emotions in the room, not just see them, but feel them directly. My daughter's grief was like a wave of deep violet, her love like gold. The nurse's compassion radiated in soft blue. The doctor's urgency pulsed red with streaks of white, focused and determined. It wasn't just color. It was emotion, truth, intention, made visible. And then I realized I wasn't just watching from above. I was everywhere. I could focus in and feel the heartbeat of my daughter, the trembling in her hands. I could zoom out and sense the city outside the hospital, the quiet ache of lonely people, the laughter of a child miles away. All of it happening at once, like the world was a symphony, and I had suddenly become the music. I wasn't limited to the room anymore. I drifted through the hospital walls effortlessly, like I was made of light and memory. I passed by other rooms, saw families gathered around beds, some filled with sorrow, others with hope. In one room, a man whispered goodbye to his wife, not knowing she could already hear him. I paused there, sensing another spirit near her, her mother, waiting with patience and love that felt older than time. That's when I understood something I had never truly believed before. No one dies alone. There are always presences, guides, loved ones, sometimes even what we might call angels, waiting to welcome the soul home. Some are familiar, some are ancient, but they're never far. They don't interfere. They simply wait, glowing softly, ready to embrace those making the crossing. And in that moment, I realized someone was waiting for me too. I felt a shift, like a current pulling me toward something beyond the hospital, beyond the city, beyond anything earthly. I turned, not with eyes, but with awareness, and saw it. A light so brilliant, so impossibly pure, that it seemed to pulse with the very breath of creation itself. It wasn't just light. It was intelligence, love, home. It didn't force me to move. It didn't call my name, but every part of my being yearned for it. I knew, without doubt, that if I stepped fully into that light, I would never return to Earth, and I wanted to go. But just before I did, I felt a question rise within me, not asked by anyone else, but born from my own soul. Are you ready to know? I didn't know what it meant at the time, but I knew I had to say yes. And when I did, the light grew closer. Or maybe I moved toward it. It's hard to explain. Distance didn't work the way it does in the physical world. It was all about intention, alignment. And then I crossed a threshold. The moment I did, everything changed. Gone were the walls of the hospital, the streets of the city, the pull of gravity. I was now in a space that was beyond, a realm made of light, sound, and meaning. There were no stars, no sky, and yet everything shimmered with an internal brilliance. There was no time, but I was moving, learning, becoming. And ahead, through the light, I sensed a presence, something ancient, something vast, something that had watched the birth of stars and held the blueprint of every soul that had ever lived. I didn't know it yet, but I was about to discover the truth of the universe's creation, a truth I would carry back for you. The moment I crossed into that new realm, I felt the last remnants of human limitation dissolve. There was no more gravity, no more pain, no more doubt, only awareness, and not just mine, but something greater that I was now a part of. Imagine being a single drop of water returning to the ocean. You're still you, but now you remember you've always been part of something so much bigger. I found myself moving, though not with my legs, because I had no form. It was more like being carried, or flowing, drawn toward something deeper. That's when I noticed the tunnel. It wasn't like the dark, narrow tunnel often described in stories. This one was alive. It pulsed with energy, golden, crystalline, almost translucent. The walls shimmered as if woven from strands of light, vibrating with a harmony that I could feel in my very essence. It was as though the tunnel itself was singing, welcoming me, soothing me. The sound, it wasn't heard with ears but absorbed directly into my being. It was like hearing the voice of love itself. And then, just ahead, I saw the light. Not a light like the sun, and not something that blinded or burned. This light had presence. It was intelligent. It knew me. Every thought I had ever had, every moment of joy or shame, every secret, every wound, I could feel it all being gently held in that light without judgment. As I moved closer, I felt a pulling sensation, not like being dragged, but more like my soul remembered the way home. I wasn't afraid. In fact, I felt something I don't think we even have a word for. Imagine peace, joy, love, belonging, all wrapped into a single emotion, amplified beyond anything you've ever known. That's what it felt like. It was overwhelming and completely natural at the same time. And then, just before I reached the light, something extraordinary happened. It reached for me, not with hands, with presence, with love. It was as if the entire universe leaned in and embraced me, not just physically, but spiritually, soul to soul. And in that embrace, I felt it. I was known. Fully. Completely. Nothing hidden, nothing rejected. Every mistake I'd made, every time I thought I wasn't enough, every broken place inside me, it was all there, fully seen, and loved anyway. No words were exchanged, but the message was clear, as if whispered directly into my soul. You have always been loved. You were never alone. I wanted to weep, but I had no tears. I wanted to fall to my knees, but I had no knees. I could only be in that love, and for the first time in my existence, I knew what it meant to be truly whole. I was shown memories, not just from my life, but from beyond it. I remembered things my human mind could never have recalled, moments before I was born, choices my soul had made, the reasons I had chosen this life, this family, this path, and through it all, the light was with me, not just observing, but feeling everything with me. And then, something else began to unfold. I became aware that the light was not just welcoming me, it was revealing something. I started to feel its depth, not just as a presence, but as a consciousness, a mind, an intelligence older than time itself, a being so vast and yet so intimate it defied description. And it began to show me things, images, concepts, truths not in words, but in waves of knowing. I saw the birth of stars. I felt the moment matter formed. I witnessed creation, not from the outside, but as if I were inside the mind of the Creator, feeling the intention behind every spark, every atom, every life. I wasn't watching the universe being made. I was experiencing it, like stepping into the first thought that ever existed. And in that moment, I realized something that shattered everything I had believed. We were not made by accident. Creation is not random. It is personal, loving, intentional. Every galaxy, every molecule, every breath, it all exists because of love. And I was beginning to understand the light had more to show me. But first, it wanted me to remember one thing above all. Love is not what you feel. Love is what you are. As the embrace of the light slowly faded, not in warmth, but in intensity, I sensed I was being guided forward, deeper into this realm of knowing. The presence that had surrounded me didn't leave. It simply stepped back slightly, like a parent watching a child take their first steps, lovingly, proudly, without pushing. I began moving again, though not by walking. It was more like being guided by purpose. My surroundings changed, not in a flash, but gradually, like waking from a dream into another, even more vivid one. I found myself in a vast expanse unlike anything I could have imagined. It wasn't a hall in the earthly sense, not made of stone or walls or ceilings, but I instantly knew this was a place of wisdom, a sacred space, a place where truth lives. It felt ancient, timeless. I couldn't see edges, but I sensed infinity in every direction. The space was filled with a glowing mist, not heavy or obscuring, but luminous, like breathing light itself. And within that mist, I felt others, souls, thousands, maybe millions. But there was no crowd, no noise. Each soul felt distinct, radiant, at peace. They weren't talking, but they were communicating, sharing, learning, being, and all of it in perfect harmony. There was no ego here, no status, no separation. It was like standing inside a living library, one made of spirit and memory, of emotion and understanding. Some souls appeared as light forms, pulsing with unique vibrations. Others took on more familiar shapes, human-like, but radiant, translucent, glowing from within. I didn't recognize them personally, but I knew them somehow. We were all connected, all part of the same source. One soul turned toward me, and I felt a wave of welcome, like a warm breeze that carried ancient love. No words, just pure telepathic emotion. You've returned. It was then that I understood. This was not a place I was visiting for the first time. I had been here before, long before this life. This place was my soul's home, a gathering space between journeys, a sacred hall where souls came to remember, reflect, and prepare. In the center of this vast expanse was something extraordinary, a structure not made of matter, but of light and sound. It rose like a spiral of energy, constantly moving, shifting, yet perfectly still. From it emanated what I can only describe as divine wisdom. I was drawn to it, pulled by a longing I didn't even know I carried. As I approached, I saw glimpses of lives, not just mine, but of others. Endless stories, playing out like woven threads in a vast tapestry. I saw choices made across lifetimes, not judged but understood. Patterns of love, lessons of pain, sacrifices, growth. Everything was recorded, not in words or books, but in energy. This was the Hall of Records, the Library of Souls, and I was allowed to see. A guide appeared beside me, not as a person, but as a presence. It felt familiar, like an old friend or mentor. It radiated calm, authority, kindness beyond anything I'd ever experienced on Earth, and it began to show me my own journey. Not with shame, not with criticism, but with clarity. I saw my life, the choices I made, the people I hurt, the people I healed. But more than that, I saw the why behind it all. I saw the contracts my soul had agreed to, the pain I had chosen to endure in this life to grow, to evolve, to remember. There was no punishment, only understanding. Even my greatest regrets were seen here as stepping stones, not failures. Every tear, every mistake, every moment I thought was meaningless, it all mattered. Not because of outcome, but because of intention, growth, love. And that's when I was told, again, not in words, but in deep inner knowing, this life was a gift, a school. And now, you are ready to remember more. More? Yes. Because what I had seen so far was just the beginning. The light had shown me my life, but now I was being prepared to see something much greater. The origin of life itself, the creation of all things, the divine architecture of the universe. And I was ready, or so I believed. There are no human words for what I was shown next, but I will try. The guide beside me, this being of ancient wisdom, extended what felt like an invitation. I didn't see a door or a gateway, but I felt something open. The moment I gave my consent, I was drawn upward, not like being lifted, but like my soul was stretching beyond any boundary it had ever known. And then, I was there, in a place before time, before matter, before anything. I wasn't seeing creation as an observer. I was inside it. I was within the very first breath the universe ever took. It was not an explosion, not a bang. It was a thought, a desire, a pulse of intention. The universe began with love, not romantic, not sentimental, but the purest, most powerful force imaginable. I saw it, not with eyes but with knowing, as a single spark of consciousness, infinitely aware, infinitely loving, choosing to express itself. That expression became light. That light became sound. That sound became movement. And that movement unfolded into stars, planets, galaxies, dimensions. It was all connected. Everything created was meant. Nothing was random. Every element, every frequency, every vibration was part of a divine design. I saw patterns stretching through the cosmos, like a celestial DNA encoding purpose into every atom. Nothing was wasted. Nothing forgotten. The Creator, this vast, eternal intelligence, was not distant or cold. It was deeply personal. It felt. It chose to experience itself through creation. And each soul, yours, mine, everyone who has ever lived, was a unique expression of that divine longing to experience, to grow, to love. I saw the formation of galaxies as if they were symphonies being composed. Stars didn't just ignite, they sang as they were born. Colors I had never seen before rippled across existence. Every movement, every spark of matter was a note in the music of all that is. And within this creation, Earth emerged. I saw it not as an isolated planet, but as part of a grand unfolding, a chosen place, a living school, a sacred realm where souls would come to forget and then remember. I understood then that Earth is one of the few places in the universe where souls choose to experience separation, from each other, from source, even from themselves, not as punishment, but as a way to grow in awareness, to choose love freely, even when it's hard, to create beauty through struggle, to remember who we are without being told. I saw humanity not as lost but as brave. Every soul who enters this world knows it will forget where it came from, knows it will feel pain, knows it will face loss, but it comes anyway, again and again, because Earth is a place of rapid growth, a crucible of transformation, a mirror where the soul can see itself clearly, even if only for a moment. I saw spirits gathering before birth, preparing, planning, choosing their families, their challenges, their paths. Not every detail is fixed, but the themes are chosen. Some come to teach, some to heal, some to break generational pain, some simply to love. Every life matters. And then, I was shown something deeper, the interconnectedness of all things, how the birth of a star in a distant galaxy could ripple across space-time and influence the course of a soul on Earth, how a single act of kindness in one life could send waves through dimensions, how nothing is ever lost. And all of it, every single thing, is held in the Creator's awareness. That's when I felt it again. That same presence from the beginning. The light, the source. But this time, I didn't just feel embraced. I merged with it. For a moment, or maybe forever, I was not separate. I was part of it. Not as a drop in an ocean, but as the ocean realizing it had always been every drop. I understood everything. Why there is pain, why we forget, why love hurts, and most of all, why nothing is wasted. Every broken heart, every unanswered prayer, every goodbye, it all flows back into the Creator and is transformed into wisdom, into light, into home. And just as quickly, I began to return. Not because I wanted to, but because I had seen what I came to see. And there was more, a message that needed to be shared. Even after witnessing the birth of the universe, I thought nothing could go deeper. But I was wrong. What I had seen was the what of creation, the unfolding, the design, the harmony of all things. But now, I was invited into the why. I didn't move, I didn't travel. Instead, the shift came from within, a vibration, a calling. And then, I was inside it, inside the mind of the Creator. Imagine existing within a thought so vast, so alive, that it breathes stars and births galaxies. This wasn't imagination or metaphor. It was real. I could feel the origin of all intelligence, all beauty, all existence pulsing around and through me. It wasn't thought as we know it, not words, not logic. It was pure intention, emotion fused with intelligence, a love so vast and deep it could not remain still, so it expressed itself, and that expression became everything. I understood that every atom, every soul, every blade of grass, every black hole, they are all thoughts held in the infinite mind of God, not watched from a distance, but continuously loved into being. Nothing exists apart from this mind. We don't live outside of the Creator. We live inside its awareness. And in that awareness, there is no judgment, no punishment, only understanding. Every decision we make, even the ones we call mistakes, is known completely. The reasons, the fears, the trauma, the longing for love. It's all seen, not with disapproval, but with infinite compassion. I felt a download. Not information, but truth. As if centuries of wisdom were being poured into my soul, not to memorize, but to remember. I saw that we are not separate from God. We are God, experiencing itself through form, through limitation, through the illusion of separation, so that we might know love, not as a concept, but as a choice. And I wept, not with sadness, but with awe. Because the truth is so simple, so vast, so terrifyingly beautiful. Everything is made of love, not just filled with love, not surrounded by it, made of it. Love is the fabric of creation. It is not a feeling. It is a substance, a force, a law more absolute than gravity. Everything you see, touch, breathe, even the pain, even the shadow, is constructed from love distorted, love forgotten, love in search of itself. And in that divine mind, I saw you. Not just humanity, not just a collective. You, your life, your questions, your fears, your moments of doubt, your grief, and your immense capacity to love in the middle of suffering. You are not small. You are not broken. You are not forgotten. You are a thread in the infinite tapestry of God's own unfolding story. Unique, irreplaceable, holy. I saw how your sorrow echoes in the Creator's heart, not as pity, but as shared experience. God feels with you, because you are not a creation separate from the Creator. You are the Creator, learning to love through the fragile beauty of being human. And just when I thought I had reached the limit of what a soul could bear in awe, the voice returned, not as sound, but as presence. It said, "Now you understand why you must go back." And my heart broke, because once you've known this, how can you ever return to the weight of gravity, to the ache of time, to a world where love feels rare and pain feels endless? I didn't want to go, but the presence was kind, patient, loving me through my resistance. "You carry me," it said. "You are my voice, my eyes, my heart in the world. Go show them. Go remind them. I will be with you in every breath. And with those words, I felt myself begin to separate, not from the love, but from the oneness. I was still within God, but now I was becoming me again. My shape returned, my individuality, my memory of Earth, my grief, my daughter. And then I knew. I had seen the mind that dreamed the stars into being. And it was time to carry that dream back into the world. As I began to separate from the infinite mind of the Creator, something extraordinary happened. My perspective began to shift, not away from the divine, but toward Earth, toward humanity. I wasn't descending physically. I was aligning, my consciousness moving closer to the dimension of form, but still holding the memory of all I had just experienced. And in that transition space, I was shown something profound. I was given a view of Earth, not from space, but from a place of pure truth. The planet wasn't just blue and green and filled with oceans and cities. It shimmered, it pulsed, like a living being, a soul, and I saw it for what it really is, a place of sacred learning. Earth is not random. It is not cursed. It is not fallen. It is one of the most courageous places a soul can go. Why? Because here, we forget. We forget our origin. We forget we are loved. We forget we are eternal. We come into bodies that feel pain. We live in a world where death seems final, where fear and separation often seem louder than love. We are born into families with wounds. We face betrayal, loneliness, illness, grief, and yet, we love, we create, we sing, we forgive, we sacrifice, we hold hands in the dark, we search for meaning in the middle of despair. And that is why Earth is holy. Because to choose love in the absence of memory, to act with compassion when you feel broken, to believe in something greater when all evidence tells you not to, that is the highest kind of courage. That is divine. I saw souls preparing for their lives before they were born, gathered in places of light, reviewing possible paths, choosing lessons. Not like a script, but like a symphony waiting to be played. They didn't choose pain as punishment. They chose experiences to grow, to heal old wounds, to help others, to awaken something sacred within themselves. And no soul ever did it alone. Every person you've ever loved, even those who hurt you, played a part in your soul's story. Some were meant to challenge you, others to lift you. Some were only with you for a moment, but they were never random. Even the hardest relationships, they had purpose. Not to harm, but to reveal, to teach, to open parts of your heart that you didn't know existed. I was shown that life on Earth is never just about survival. It's about remembrance. Remembering who we truly are, even in the fog of fear and forgetfulness. We are not the names we're given. We are not our jobs, our bodies, our failures, or our diagnoses. We are souls, eternal, radiant, connected to each other beyond time and form. And every single one of us is a child of the Creator. I was also shown the things that matter most in life, and they weren't what I had expected. It wasn't success, or status, or being right. It wasn't how much money we made, or how perfect we appeared. It was the quiet moments of love, the time you sat with someone in silence just so they wouldn't feel alone, the forgiveness you offered, even when it wasn't deserved, the hand you held at a hospital bed, the prayer you whispered for someone who would never know, the tears you shed for a world in pain and still chose to be kind anyway. These moments, they shine. In the spiritual realm, they glow brighter than any achievement. They are recorded, not in books or scrolls, but in the vibration of your soul. Because love never dies. Everything else will fade. But every act of love, no matter how small, becomes part of the eternal fabric of creation. And I saw something else. Something that broke my heart and healed it all at once. How many people walk through this life believing they are unworthy, unlovable, alone. And yet, from the other side, they are surrounded, loved beyond measure, carried by ancestors, guides, soul family, watched over by a source that never lets go. If you've ever felt like no one sees you, hear this. Heaven sees you. You are not invisible. You are not forgotten. And even your darkest moment is known, held, transformed. I knew then that I could not stay. I had been given a glimpse behind the veil, not to escape life, but to come back and honor it, to remind others, to remind you that this life, as painful as it can be, is also sacred and temporary and leading you home. When the vision of Earth faded from my awareness, I found myself once again in that sacred space of light and peace. I felt full, overflowing, with knowledge, with love, with a truth that could never be unlearned. Every part of me wanted to stay. I was home. I was free. But then, something shifted. A new awareness entered, one I had been quietly avoiding since the beginning of this journey. It was gentle, but firm. Loving, but undeniable. I had to go back. I don't know how I knew. I just did. The same way you know when you've reached the end of a dream or the final page of a story. It was not a command. The light did not demand. But the message was clear. You are not finished. I felt my soul tremble. Not from fear, but from longing. Longing to stay in that perfect peace, to remain wrapped in the presence that had known me since before time. The thought of returning to the heaviness of a body, to a world where pain is loud and love can feel far away. It crushed me. I responded without speaking, soul to source. But I finally remember. I belong here. I'm home. And the answer came. Not in words, but in a wave of truth so compassionate it unraveled me completely. You belong there too, because they need to remember. Suddenly, I saw faces. So many faces. People I didn't recognize with my earthly mind, but I knew them. Their pain, their questions, their quiet prayers whispered into pillows at night. The ones who were holding on by a thread. The ones who had lost a child, or a spouse, or their own sense of worth. People walking through life numb, angry, confused, wondering if any of it mattered. And I knew. I was meant to be their witness, not their savior. Just someone who had seen behind the veil and came back to say, yes, it's real. You are loved. You are not alone. I saw my daughter again, still in the hospital room, her face buried in my chest, crying out my name. I felt her pain like it was my own, and I realized my love for her was my mission. My presence in her life still mattered. My words, my story, my heart. It wasn't finished yet. And so, I surrendered. I said yes. Not because I wanted to leave the light, but because I finally understood the deepest truth of all, to love fully. Sometimes you have to return to the broken places. And then it happened. The separation. It was like being pulled through layers of density, light becoming sound, sound becoming energy, energy becoming matter. I could feel the heaviness of form returning. The veil was lowering. The clarity I had just held so easily began to slip like sand through my fingers. I wasn't being punished. I was re-entering the dream. But before I fully crossed back, the light placed one last message deep into my soul. A gift. A seed I would carry through the pain, through the forgetting. Tell them that love is why they exist. Tell them I have never left. Tell them they are already enough. And then, I fell, back into the body. If this story is touching your heart, or if you've ever felt something greater calling you in your darkest moments, please subscribe and share your experience in the comments. This is a community of remembrance, healing, and connection, and you are part of it. The return was not graceful. One moment, I was surrounded by infinite love, weightless and eternal. The next, I was being pulled, dragged through a thick, cold fog that grew heavier with each passing moment. I felt the density of form closing in around me like walls made of stone. And then came the pain. It wasn't just physical, though my body screamed with it. It was emotional, spiritual, like being locked in a room after having flown through galaxies. The contrast was unbearable. The light, the love, the unity, all of it now felt distant, like a dream slipping away as morning forces your eyes open. I gasped. The sound that left my mouth was rough, raspy, panicked. My lungs burned. My chest ached with the violent pounding of a heartbeat I had forgotten. Alarms were going off. Hands were on me. Voices cried out, "She's back!" My daughter's face appeared above mine, soaked in tears, trembling with disbelief. I tried to speak, to say, "I'm here. I never left." But my lips wouldn't move the way I wanted. My body felt foreign, like slipping into clothes that didn't belong to me anymore. For days, maybe weeks, I drifted in and out of consciousness. But even when I was awake, I wasn't fully there. Part of me was still in that other place, still trying to hold on to what I had seen. I couldn't unsee it. I didn't want to. And yet life demanded I return. The body needed food. The heart carried trauma. The brain struggled to make sense of what had happened. I was caught between two worlds. Doctors called it a miraculous recovery. They used terms like flatline and cardiac arrest and inexplicable reversal. They smiled at the data. But none of them could see the truth written in my eyes. I had died. And I had lived more fully in that death than I ever had in life. People visited, friends brought flowers, nurses checked in, and always someone would whisper, "You're so lucky. You cheated death." I would smile politely, but inside I knew I didn't cheat death. I had met her, and she had shown me more life than I ever imagined possible. In the quiet hours when no one else was around, I would cry. Not from fear, but from the aching homesickness that clung to me like a shadow. I missed the light. I missed the peace. I missed being seen, fully and truly, without any of the masks we wear here. And yet, I knew I had a purpose now. I wasn't sent back to live the same life. I wasn't given this return to stay silent. But how could I explain what I had seen? People weren't ready, I thought. They would call it a hallucination, a dream, a trick of the brain. But deep down, I knew there were others, many others, who had touched the veil too, who were silently carrying the same burden, the memory of a place no one believes is real, but is more real than anything we experience here. So I began to write. At first, just for myself. Pages and pages of images, truths, emotions I couldn't carry alone. Then slowly, I began to speak. First to close friends, then to small groups. And each time I did, something miraculous happened. People cried. People opened. People remembered. Not the story I told, but the truth inside them that resonated with it. The part of them that had always known there was more. And slowly, the pain of returning began to soften. I started to notice beauty again. Ordinary beauty. The way sunlight filtered through the window. The way my daughter's laugh carried something sacred. The way even tears, when shared in honesty, could become healing. Life didn't get easier, but it became deeper. And I became a bridge. Between worlds. Between questions and answers. Between the aching heart and the eternal soul. I didn't return perfect, but I returned transformed. And with every breath, I carry the message that brought me back. You are loved beyond understanding, and you were never, ever alone. It's been some time now since that day, since I left this world, saw the face of eternity, and returned with a heart forever changed. Life as I live it now is quieter, slower, but also deeper. Every moment feels layered with meaning. Every person I meet, I see a soul. Every pain I witness, I recognize the courage it takes just to keep going. Because I remember now what most of us forget. We are souls wearing human skin, walking each other home. The message that lives inside me, the one I carried back from the edge of forever, is not complicated. It's not exclusive or mysterious. It's not tied to a single religion, culture, or belief system. It is simple, pure, and it belongs to everyone. The universe is not indifferent. It is not chaos. It is not silent. The universe is love, a love so alive, so intelligent, so intimately aware of you that it dreamed you into being. You were not born by accident. Your life is not random. Your pain has not gone unseen. The struggles you carry in silence, the questions that haunt you when you're alone, the moments you wonder if you'll ever feel whole again, all of that is held, known, loved. You are here for a reason, not to be perfect, not to be productive, but to become, to unfold like a flower toward the light, to allow yourself to feel, to fail, to try again, to love even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. And if you're grieving, I want you to hear this. The love you shared with those who've passed, it's not gone. It didn't die. It is alive, vibrating through every dimension, connecting you still. Sometimes the veil between worlds is so thin, all it takes is a quiet moment, a breath, a memory, to feel them again. They're closer than we think, always watching, always loving, always guiding. There is no death, only transformation. And one day, when your journey here is complete, you too will remember. You'll see the light. You'll feel the embrace. You'll be home again. But until then, live. Live with purpose. Live with tenderness. Live with awe. Look at the stars and know they were born in the same fire as your soul. Touch a hand and know it holds lifetimes of wisdom. Breathe, and know that each breath is a miracle. You are not alone. You never were, and you never will be. If this story touched your heart, if you've ever wondered about what lies beyond, or if you're walking through grief and longing for peace, I invite you to join this journey with me. Please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and most importantly, leave a comment, share your story, share your questions. or just let us know you're here. This is more than just a video. This is a space of remembrance, a space where we heal together, because love never dies, and neither do we.